Ladies and gentlemen, so today we have the first official update of the tier list for 2018. Now, I want to start off because I know the tier list videos, man, they're always a little bit controversial, but I want people to keep in mind the disclaimer of the tier list and, understand the purpose of it. It's to kind of lay out comparatively how I view every single champion in the game in Marvel Contest of Champions, very roughly speaking, and keep that roughly in mind in terms of their overall usefulness and effectiveness within the game, because Marvel Contest of Champions is so incredibly complicated. Once you get to the later game, there are thousands of different matchups and scenarios across many pieces of content, and there are different nodes and buffs and scenarios where certain champions that might be rubbish for everything else suddenly become really great and really effective. The game is so incredibly complicated, and just a spreadsheet can't fully explain every single caveat of the game to you, but it helps progressing players and newer players, generally speaking, to get a good idea and understanding of champions that are very high value and champions that are going to serve them well, so that they can rank up those champions and, make the best possible decisions and have a roster to potentially go as far as their skill level will take them. So yeah, that is the general disclaimer about the purpose of the tier list, but in today's video, I want to talk about some of the updates to it, and we are going to go through every single God tier and Demigod tier champion, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of, what I believe makes that champion so great, and some of the uses I've noticed of various champions, just to kind of, fill you in and give you a good perspective on where some of the best champions are at and what they're being used for. But also, I've split it into a total of 6 tiers now. So one of the things that I started to realize toward my last video is that the Demigod tier and the Amazing tier column, they were getting very heavy. There were so many champions coming in that were kind of around that Amazing Demigod tier, but there seemed to be a little bit of a gap in the middle, and some of the champions in the Amazing tier, because so many good champions were being brought in the top end, were kind of going down a little bit in value. So yeah, a good part of the Amazing and Demigod tier has been split into the new Amazing tier, and quite a few champions, I think well, rightfully so, have been moved down to the good tier. But to generally define what I mean by God tier are generally kind of the best options for stuff. Demigod tier are really great and really effective options, but maybe in the majority of scenarios, not quite at the level of what some of the God tier champions can achieve. And Amazing tier, these are generally really good characters. They all have their interesting uses or hit quite hard. And good tier, it's getting a little bit lower in terms of the damage, not really much utility. Okay tier is maybe they might have 1 or 2 super good uses in the game, but aside from that, they're just not very useful champions, generally speaking. And meh tier is like these champions in terms of playing them, and this tier list is all about champions you play, not ones that you place on Alliance War Defense. These are champions that just suck to play because they just don't have any damage at all, or just, no utility, don't really bring much to the table. So yeah, that's kind of a rough definition of every tier. Again, it's super rough, so keep that in mind and don't take everything to heart, and you can perceive stuff slightly differently if you want. But it's, important to understand that the main criteria of what makes a champion good or not, can they do this matchup without dying if you play perfectly? That is the only thing that matters when it comes to how good a certain champion is. But anyway, let's talk about some of the God tier champions, and to start off, we have Wolverine, who is just still to this day, one of my favorite options for Alliance Quest. Wolverine has very good damage output, but simultaneously, arguably the strongest regeneration in the game. Like, his regeneration is just absolutely crazy. It's a little bit random to a certain extent, but it's got such a high proc chance that it's very consistent to move throughout Alliance Quest maps, and pretty much always rely, even if you do make mistakes, and this is a thing with Alliance Quest, you kind of want those champions that have regeneration, because you're playing Alliance Quest at all times of day, and there will be times where you are maybe really sleepy or just woken up, and you're just going to make a little mistake here and there. So regeneration, very important. And Wolverine, he can do bosses like Mordo and Rhino, just keep on hammering at them and just regen up and then keep going in, have that timeout health penalty. So yeah, he's just amazing for Alliance Quest. I really like Wolverine. And then we have Archangel. Archangel, if you can bleed, if you can poison the opponent, generally speaking, Archangel is by far the best option to play. His damage is absolutely insane in those scenarios, and has arguably one of the strongest, most reliable ability accuracy reductions in the game with his neurotoxin mechanic that he gets when he's awakened. So yeah, Archangel is #1 magic killer if you are facing a lot of magics, but overall just crazy for any scenario where you can bleed and poison the opponent. Iceman, he's kind of the utility MVP of the mutant class. He is bleed immune, he's poison immune, he's incinerate immune, he can counter evade with his special 1. His ice armor, it can absorb special freeze, it can also absorb any stun return. So if you're fighting like a Medusa, for example, you know, you can eat one of the parries and have that absorbed by your ice armor. So yeah, Iceman is finding so many uses in the current meta of the game, and I really, really like that champion. And then we have Dr. Voodoo, incredibly versatile champion. There is so much he can do. He regens at the start of the fight. He can nullify and convert any buffs into poison via his special 1. He can reduce ability accuracy via his awakened ability. He can power drain really, really effectively. Like, you can pretty much have the opponent constantly at 0 power if you know how to play Dr. Voodoo very, very well. So yeah, Dr. Voodoo, there's just so much versatility and strength within the character. And I would say he's arguably, I would say, like top 5 all-around champions in the game. And then we have Scarlet Witch, bit of a controversial god tier champion, but Scarlet Witch, she is the face roll queen of Marvel Contest the Champions. She's amazing still for Alliance quests, so useful, the chance to proc regeneration, huge amount of damage, she has nullify on every single critical hit, just such an incredibly potent and just awesome character for pretty much like general clearing. Scarlet Witch is one of the best options to go for. And then we have Ghost Rider, who is a utility and regeneration god, especially when awakened and when paired with Blade. He really, really excels because his judgments don't have a chance to fail then. With Ghost Rider, you have the potential of infinite regeneration, you can nullify, you can power drain, you can power lock, you can fate seal. There is a crazy amount of stuff that you can do with Ghost Rider. He requires an incredible amount of skill, and you need to know how to play very, very well. But if you are good at playing Ghost Rider, the game is just, you can dominate the game. Like, he's really, really good champion. The only thing he kind of lacks on is the overall damage isn't too suave. And then we have Magic, arguably the strongest power control champion in the entire game. Only gets better if you are an amazing interceptor. You can keep your opponent against the wall, just continually spam the special 2. You know, you get like a bar and a bit back in terms of power. And if you're fighting an opponent with a lot of buffs that's fueling your Mystic Dispersion, it's crazy the potential that Magic has, especially if you have her awakened as well and you're rewinding damage. I've seen people do, like Quickshot Gaming has posted some videos in map 6 of Alliance Quest against like a degeneration Luke Cage, and he's just rinsing Luke Cage against the wall with Magic, like rewinding all of the degeneration damage. Some really, really impressive stuff there. So Magic, she's a great all-around Alliance Quest, Alliance War, just fantastic for. Gwenpool, oh my gosh, Gwenpool is so much fun to play, a ton of damage, ability accuracy reduction when awakened, can survive multiple special freeze and just keep on doing that. Also has the potential to power lock. Well, it's power only generated from her hits, which in a lot of scenarios, probably about a good few scenarios, really, really does help out. But she's not kind of the power control option. Mainly Gwenpool is played for her insane bleed damage and also ability accuracy reduction there. And then we also have Blade, who is arguably the #1 champion in Marvel Contest of Champions at the moment. You have the potential to infinitely regen, you've got ability accuracy reduction against mystic and villain characters primarily, and you have, what else do you have with Blade? She's got an insane amount of damage, potential immunity to debuffs, or very, very close to immunity to debuffs based on his power level. Blade is just the answer to a lot of the really, really annoying stuff in Marvel Contest of Champions at the moment, and is, I would say, the default kind of best Alliance War champion at the moment, and also incredibly good for Alliance Quest. And then we have Medusa up next, very, very hard-hitting cosmic champion that is also immune to poison, so quite good for Stuff like Alliance Quest, very good for shutting down robots as well, very good for the final Ultron in Act 5.4, and also whenever you're fighting an OG Vision, that's incredibly difficult to deal with. But yeah, Medusa as well, I've seen people take her up to rank 4 and do 100% Labyrinth of Legends with her, because she's phenomenal damage output if you keep on training the special free, and just keep those bleed stacks piling up. So yeah, Medusa's awesome for that. Hyperion, in a way, has some very, very similar uses to Medusa. Hyperion's additional strength comes in terms of the power gain that he has being amazing for any scenario that kind of rewards additional special attacks, or those various chapters and nodes where, you know, you only deal damage via your special attacks. Like, he's just really, really awesome for that, but hits insanely hard. I've seen people do Labyrinth of Legends 100% with Hyperion as well. So yeah, just a great overall option for that. And then we have Spider-Man Stark Enhanced. He is just an amazing hard-hitting character. I would say the best all-around tech champion, especially if you have him paired up with Blade. He has Taunt, it's much easier to bait out special attacks, potential infinite stun on the special one in any scenario where there's power gain, additional damage, and I think ability accuracy reduction to robots via his special too. I might be wrong on the ability accuracy reduction to robots part though, but via the special free you have an 18-second evade counter, so you can stop evade on like a Nightcrawler or an OG Spider-Man for 18 seconds if they can be debuffed, and also reduce ability accuracy reduction by 30%. On Spider-Man Stark Enhanced, and yeah, he just hits like a friggin' truck, this dude. Really, really good overall champion to play. And also Power Drain on his heavy attack, which can be very, very useful sometimes if you accidentally push over, you know, a special free, just go into a special one, stun him. Medium attack, heavy attack, Power Drain. Not too bad, lads, not too bad. And then finally we have Star-Lord, who is, kind of amazing. He is so good, so godly on these fights and scenarios where you have a good amount of time to ramp up. In Labyrinth of Legends, Realm of Legends, he's arguably the best character for these pieces of content, but I would say in stuff like Act 5, while he's generally very, very useful, I think there are a lot more scenarios where Spider-Man Stark Enhanced kind of has the upper hand, but if you want like pretty much almost an infinite damage upscaling, then Star-Lord is really just an MVP for so many different scenarios in the game. But yeah, that's all he has. Really, really hard, heavy damage on those longer fights, and he is honestly like awesome and fantastic for those. So then we move on to the Demigod tier of champions. So we start off with Wolverine X23 at the top, does more damage than Wolverine, but the regeneration, especially when awakened, is significantly less. And Wolverine X23, one of the perks is you don't need her to be awakened to be really good. She's an amazing 5-star character to pull, and can be very, very good for general stuff like Alliance Quest. And a very similar situation to Rogue. Rogue has less damage, but reliable health steal on the special 1, power drain on the special 2, can copy and hold buffs of the opponent, which can be very, very useful in certain scenarios, and has the occasional stuff there, but Rogue as well. Her lifesteal is based on damage dealt, so any scenario that kind of really ramps up her attack power, she can gain a huge amount of additional life from her special 1. So that's really, really cool. We got Dormammu. He's got double, you know, poison and bleed immune. He has phenomenal power control. And to be honest, those are the only things you really need to know about Dormammu. His damage really isn't too great, but, you know, it's the power control which can potentially make this dude such a beast. Then we have Hood, who's a bit of a utility god. You have Stagger on every single critical hit. You've got a Fate Seal on the special 2, which is really, really easy to get to and continue using. You've got some fairly decent damage output, you got stun potential on the special 1, and you also have invisibility, which can make you stun immune when it's on cooldown, and also increase the chance that you are going to evade projectile attacks, so that can be very, very useful, up to 90%. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Morningstar is a bit of an interesting one, because I've seen some awesome uses for people that have 5-star Morningstars and have taken her up to rank 4 and then done Labyrinth of Legends. Morningstar, she's got a bit of a con because you need to ramp up and you need to get 5 souls on this character, or at least 4 before she's really a champion that you want to play. But when she has 5 souls, the champion is incredible. She is so good. So I've seen some people in Labyrinth of Legends, you know, do Red Hulk once, capture the soul die, and just rinse and repeat that until they got 5 souls and then go for the full kill, and then just roll through the rest of Labyrinth. So Morningstar, you know, she has interesting uses, and I think she's a really cool champion in addition to the game. So I really like Morningstar, and she's very useful. Has Nullify on the special too, can siphon health based on damage dealt. So yeah, she's pretty awesome. Then we have Hawkeye, got an amazing power drain on his special one. Very good champion to play if you are incredibly good at intercepting, but you know, has the con of being inferior to magic in terms of the power control element. Then we have Elektra, awesome in any scenario where you can debuff the opponent and ability accuracy reduction is needed. So yeah, she's amazing for that stuff. Then we have Daredevil Classic, who when awakened and when at high sig level is amazing for kind of venturing into new frontier and fighting champions. You may not be super savvy with their special attacks, because he can have up to 100% chance to auto-evade special attacks, sorry, projectile attacks, should I say. So yeah, that's really awesome. Then we have Thor Ragnarok, who is amazing when awakened, when at high signature level, and when you have the Hulk synergy. This dude has some beast mode damage and also a really strong ability accuracy reduction, a lot of stuns firing off as well. So yeah, Thor Ragnarok is very fun in those particular scenarios. And then we have Crossbones, who has a very strong ability accuracy reduction. He never crits, so he's amazing for spiked armor nodes that appear in like Road to the Labyrinth and Act 5, and yeah, Crossbones is a bit of an ability accuracy reduction MVP, but he has the disadvantage of you know, any PvP scenario where there are Mystic Champions, Mystic Dispersion, you are going to get wrecked playing Crossbones. And then we have Black Widow, who's turning out to be a very popular option for MODOK in Alliance War. Whenever there's a stacked MODOK, especially as a mini-boss, a lot of people seem to be using Black Widow if they don't have access to Blade, but Black Widow, she needs to be awakened, she needs to be at high level, but Black Widow has an 85% ability accuracy passive reduction against science characters. So yeah, she's just amazing for MODOK. And then we have one of the newer champions, Taskmaster. Now, Taskmaster is really good. I think of Taskmaster as a Captain America with ability accuracy reduction. So he's just really awesome in that regard, but he takes a little while to ramp up, and also you need to have this character not only awakened, but at a very high signature level to really get the strong effectiveness of his ability accuracy reduction. But Taskmaster, he's a beast. He can be very good for a lot of Alliance War scenarios. I'd love to see some more people playing Taskmaster, but I can understand, you know, why the majority of people didn't go for Taskmaster and are saving for Blade, because that is by far the best decision at the moment. But Taskmaster, he's a beast. He's got some uses in the game. The only disadvantage is his damage output isn't anything too spectacular. And then in Cosmic, we just really have 3 characters that hit very hard. Angela hits very hard, Drax hits very hard, Thor hits very hard and also has a stun, which is very useful in a lot of scenarios. A lot of people, I believe, still like using him for Alliance Quest. And then we have Vision, the both of them still viable champions for any scenario where you need to you know, control power. They're both very good for that. They're double immunities characters as well, so serve a really good function in Alliance Quest. So yeah, Vision's awesome for power draining. Ultron, double immunities, got a little bit of regeneration, got a bit of a stun as well. Like, he's a pretty decent champion overall, and a lot of people like using him as a staple for Alliance Quest. Been thinking about moving Ultron down, maybe a tier, but I'm not too sure about that. He's still a widely used and very popular champion. And then we have Dr. Octopus, who is amazing for any scenario where you need to be able to infinitely power lock the opponent, or, you know, where the opponent has a lot of healing and you want to siphon that and get some of that healing for your own. And Dr. Octopus, he hits very hard. He's just good for countering power locking or heal blocking on much longer fights, so I just keep that in mind. But could be used quite effectively. If you're a very good interceptor, you'd be able to get some Dormammu, some magics down in Alliance War, and then we have, what is it, the champion of the month, ladies and gentlemen, the one who's been up for a lot of discussion, which is Quake. And Quake, I love Quake. I think she's a very, very high demigod tier champion, has a lot of uses in scenarios where you don't want to make physical contact with the opponent, so she's amazing for stuff like spiked armor. She's really, really good for Mephisto as well in Act 5. I've seen some really, really awesome kills there. And champions that evade, if they can be stunned, she is a very, very good option for fighting characters like that. I think she's just kind of below my my god tier, just because I see a little bit too much general disadvantage in playing Quake. Anytime that there is you know, any big fights where there are stun immunity, true strike, passive power gain, there's some sort of stun reduction, like Limber and Labyrinth, for example. I feel like she just kind of crumbles in those scenarios, and there are much better effective options kind of in the god tier. So I think she's very, very high demigod, but still hasn't quite made it up there for me. And her damage output, you know, even when played correctly and perfectly with her playstyle, is still very, very much behind a lot of the top tier champions. But yeah, damages and everything, and she's an effective option, and for a lot of stuff, you know, that is all that matters, man. And then we have Void and Hulk. So Void, I had a good think about Void, because I really like Void, and I think Void, once he really, really gets into a fight, is just such a phenomenal character. But he takes quite a while to ramp up, because you need to wait till you get 6 of these debuffs total, and they emerge into one Fear of the Void. And then you need more debuffs to stack on top of that before you get to a level where the character is pretty decent and really, really awesome. And for a lot of, like, Alliance Quest, Alliance War stuff, Act 5, like, he'll work, but he'll be a little bit too slow and not really as effective in a lot of these matchups, in my opinion, as some of the God tier champions. So I think he's really, really good in any scenario where you need to reverse regeneration. Void is by far the best option in the game. He is so amazing for that, and I would say arguably Void overall is the best current counter for Mephisto. You can have a little bit of debate with Blade on that one, but yeah, Void and Blade are just amazing counters for Mephisto, generally speaking. But I really like Void, man. He's a really, really cool character. And then finally we have Hulk, who is kind of the standard damage and stun MVP of the science classes. Special 1 has a 85% chance to stun the opponent. He's amazing for Alliance Quest. He's such a reliable champion just to keep on hammering on the opponent and just constantly getting these chain stuns off and kind of pushing forward fight to fight without really taking a huge amount of damage. But the more damage you do take with this character, the more damage he increases, you know? So I think he's really, really good for Alliance Quest, and I see he's a staple in a lot of people's teams, and I've used and played a lot of Hulk for Alliance Quest in the past, and I think he's just a great, like, day-to-day option for moving through those maps. So I really, really like Hulk. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the God tier and demigod tier champions in the offense tier list. There's so much to talk about. Again, Marvel Contest of Champions is an incredibly, incredibly complicated game, and there are like 4 tiers of champions that this video, like, it's already 20 and a bit minutes long. We just don't have the time to dive into every single champion. So that's why we're hoping to do some more Champion of the Day videos kind of in the next week to highlight some of the uses, because there are a lot of different champions across a lot of these different tiers that have their uses, they have their matchups. Loki has proven to be a really excellent option, even as a 3-star version for the final 5.4 Ultron if you are a good player, because that Ultron is really all about, if you can steal his buffs, man, you win the game. That is pretty much it. And Ronan is amazing for infinite stunning if you don't have like a Stark and Aunt Spider-Man, and unfortunately I've just deleted my Loki there, so we'll just rewind. But yeah, there are a lot of scenarios and champions here that have some really cool utility amongst kind of the amazing, good, and okay tier. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is my very, very rough perspective on who I believe to be some of the the top champions currently in Marvel Contest of Champions. Again, I'm very, very open to debating and discussing a lot of my ideas and perspective on certain champions, but, you know, if you want to put forward arguments, make sure it's very, very well-rounded, and you give multiple examples of where a champion excels in main endgame pieces of content. And by that, I mean, you know, Alliance Quest, Alliance War, Labyrinth of Legends, Act 5, maybe Uncollected Monthly as well, but that's a little bit less of importance at the moment. I would say focus on those main 4. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Take care and have an absolutely fantastic day.